What's up, big man?
How's it going, buddy?
Doing good. Let's see here. All right, all right, all right. Got you guys all on. How we all doing?
Yeah, we're good, man.
Good.
Good.
Good, good, good. Let's see. Got everybody on here. So, guys, as you guys are coming on, do me a favor, go over to that question box and just say hello. We're going to start here in 2 minutes. I'm just going to get a bottle of water, and I'll be right back. And then we've got Steve and Josh from Tallbridge Investments. We're going to do we're going to start basically this round off with kind of doing a deep dive on their business and kind of effectively kind of guys redoing a little bit of what we did last time because we had so many technical difficulties. If that's cool with you guys.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I've been meaning to post something about the script, so this helps.
Yeah, it's because we're actually running businesses, right? It's a little amazing.
We were just saying, like, first time that Josh and I have actually talked to each other today, and we're just like, how's it going, man? And we're like, oof. This is full on, man. Like, this is like 1,000 miles an hour.
This is full on. All right, give me a second. I'll be right back.
It's good to see you, though, Josh.
Yeah, buddy. No, it was a nice little treat this morning. Just stroll by. That was awesome.
It was a fun little acquisitions call. Tommy, for those that are listening, I guess there's people probably listening. We did our acquisitions team meeting. We have it every morning, and we did it. Everyone was walking, so our whole acquisitions team was doing a walk wherever they live. So we were doing that, and Josh lives just 3 blocks from where I live, so I stopped by and we waved, right? And so anyways, Tommy, so he's one of our acquisitions guys, and his job today was to provide us something inspiring, and man, did he kill it. Like, he brought up a whole thing with Kobe Bryant, and I just remembering it right now is like making the hair on my arm stand up, right? But man, it was inspiring. And so like the thing that he said was, Kobe, I can't remember the basketball player who was determined to beat, like, he was playing on the opposite team of Kobe, and he knew Kobe got there early to practice and warm up for a game. And so he was determined to be there before Kobe. Didn't happen, right? And then Kobe outlasted him training before the game, and then after the game, like, Kobe shot like 40 points or something, and then the player came up to him afterwards and said, like, why did you stay on for so long? He's like, because I knew you were watching me. And so I just, such a good way to start the day. But anyways,
love it.
Kent's back.
Cool, man.
All right, you guys finished making out? Here we go.
Yeah. Virtual makeout. Take what we can get.
I'm just kidding, you guys. All right, so we got a lot of people coming in and saying hello. Let me see here. We got Darren from San Diego, Denise from Houston, Alex from Fort Lauderdale, Elaine. Let me see where Elaine's coming in from. Dayton, Ohio. Russ is coming in. Phyllis is in Cali. And then, all right, so here we go. Let's jump into it. First off, introduce yourselves here real quick so that everybody on here knows a little bit about your business here and kind of why we're here together.
Josh, Steve, I did it last time. You want to go this time?
Okay. Sure. So Josh and Steve here. So we, Josh is the one with the hair. I'm the one that kind of resembles Kent a bit, I guess, with the beard and probably a little younger. Anyways, we're from Vancouver, Canada. We've been doing virtual wholesaling now for the last 5 years. Our markets are Central Texas, primarily Austin, and Atlanta, Georgia. So we recently broke into Atlanta, the Atlanta market, September of this last year, and we've been there since. We started with Kent back in 2005. 2015. And we went to a find and flip summit. I think that was your first one, Kent.
I think it was the first one we called the Find and Flip Summit. Up until that point, we called it the Real Estate Success Summit. But yeah.
Okay, yeah. And so Josh and I, not really knowing much, we ended up going, and I remember, we got this like wholesale, this virtual wholesale award that I'm pretty sure Colby just made up on the spot. And so we got it, and that really made us feel good. And then I asked Sean Terry at the time a stupid question, which I knew the answer to, and he brought us both up on stage, and we announced, you know, our quit dates, that we were going to quit our full-time jobs on stage in front of about 200 people at the time. And yeah, the rest is really history. We burned the boats. I remember that was the first time that I really heard that saying, was burn the boats. And Josh and I, you know, we've never looked back. We have been doing this virtually from day one. We had no choice in Canada due to privacy legislation and things like that. You know, it's just it's very challenging to get public records, like the kind of records that, you know, Smart can give us. And you just made it so stupid, simple, easy for us, Kent, to access, you know, motivated sellers and cash buyers that, you know, ultimately, you know, we had to make a decision, and we decided to go to Austin, Texas, and start, you know, our virtual wholesaling business there, which
But in deciding to go to, you literally didn't go anywhere. You basically just picked it out on a map and said, let's go.
Well, yeah, so Justin Colby was our coach, and so, you know, we belonged very early on. We realized that we needed mentorship and we needed coaching. So we signed up with REWW, the coaching program there. And I think that was just getting off the ground as well at the time. And Justin was our coach. And man, we had spent probably a month with him trying to figure out what market. And finally, he just said, you guys, like, next phone call, you just tell me what market you're in. Like, just please, like, just, he's pleading with us at this stage, right? And you know, Justin, like, he's just like, guys, just like, you got it. Like, last time I'm having this conversation with you, pick a market. And we spent about 15 minutes like analyzing Forbes top 10, and we picked Austin.
I love it. And then so now you're in Austin and Atlanta. And the reason I have these guys here is for a variety of reasons. One, they run a very, very successful operation, number one, first and foremost. Two, they are amazing guys. They are part of our coaching team as well, and they've helped a lot of our Real Estate Worldwide students, number two. And number three, quite literally, they have never done it any other way except virtually. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But if you guys had to go sit down in front of a seller, or sit down in front of a buyer, or go and actually, I mean, that's something that ironically is completely foreign to you. You only know how to do it the way we're going to talk about here, right?
Yeah.
And which is amazing. And you guys are doing 80 plus deals a year, running, and the company has been on a trajectory just like this, slow and steady, and is now kind of really taking off, kind of going like this at this point.
Yeah, we're kind of hockey sticking right now is what's happening.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's really, really relevant that these guys are here. We're going to kind of do a deep dive on their business specifically and some of the things, because I want people to get over the fear, quite frankly, of doing a deal virtually. That's the outcome here, right? There's a lot of people that walk into this business with a common preconceived notion of what a real estate transaction looks like, because either they've currently done that, their only experience has been able to do it one-on-one, you know, in front of somebody. And it's amazing that when you are forced to do it a very particular way that doesn't, and everything is virtual, shockingly, you were still running a really, really successful business. And so let's just talk through the mechanics of it. So let's start at the beginning here real quick. And then as we go, Josh and Steve, I'll have you guys pipe in here. You guys come in where you need to. But let's start with what does the business look like from an overview standpoint, right? It started with just you two guys. Now it's grown into something that's significantly larger at this point. Well, kind of give me the lay of the land of what the whole business looks like from a personnel standpoint.
Sure. So, you know, again, like it was Steve and I to start, and really the foundation of our company was built off of partnerships. So we really started leveraging relationships with other wholesalers, realtors, lenders, and some of our buyers to basically, I guess, extend. Did we lose Ken?
I don't know where Ken went.
Oh, you're still here. Okay. To basically, you know, facilitate the process, right? So we kind of grew it organically. We had a few strategic relationships that allowed us to get some of the support we needed locally from an acquisition perspective. And then over time, we sort of went through an evolution of where we actually, felt like, well, we needed to have a direct team that worked for us locally in Austin, which was our first market. And so we went out and we hired acquisition managers and disposition manager and transactions manager. And kind of over the last, I'd say, year or so, we've really kind of morphed into a truly kind of virtual organization. So we still have 2 people locally that work for us in Texas, but our core team is based here in Vancouver. So we have 3 people on the acquisition side of the business, which report to Steve. And then on the disposition side, which I'm overseeing, we have Lee, who is based currently in Texas, who manages that market for us. We have Sabrina, who's our transaction manager. She's also based in Waco. And then we have an extended team of virtual people kind of based in the Philippines and Central America that support us from a cold call perspective, from a process perspective in terms of marketing, administration, reporting. So we've really kind of, we've grown up this company now where we have a core of 7 based here in North America. And then I don't know what the latest number is. I think there's another 20
7.
or so. 7 locally, yeah.
7, yeah, okay, that's right, yeah.
And then quite a large virtual team, and a lot of these VAs have been with us for years. So it's, they really are part of our team, and we integrate them in all aspects of, our scorecard and how we report to, happy hours with the team. So it's, we truly, feel that we have a global company now that kind of has its footprint in a lot of different places, which is really cool, and has set us up to scale quite nicely.
So as you guys were bringing this business on, and then again, we're going to get into the transaction in just a second because I want to walk people through the mechanics, but I also want people to understand what were some of the struggles that you guys, when you're trying to take a business and you're trying to scale it. Talk to me a little bit about, and I'm going to ask each one of you very specifically, what's the single biggest struggle as you're looking back over the last 3 years that you had to overcome, that you look back now on it and you're like, man, I'm really glad I went through that because it's better positioned me now moving forward as a business owner, as a CEO, as a co-founder. What's something you would share here?
There's 2 things that come to mind. One is being okay with going broke, like risking everything and going for it. And then 2 is the feeling of kind of always being somewhat dissatisfied. As blissfully, what does Ed say, Kent? Blissfully dissatisfied?
Blissfully dissatisfied.
Yeah. And just like what I realize now is that that's just the way that I'm wired, right, Ken? And we had that conversation, you and I, a few months back, and things were going well, and it still just wasn't exactly how we wanted it. And I've come to realize it's never going to be exactly how we want it. Like there's always the next thing and the next thing and the evolution and the growth. And like you said, you're like, you guys did not need to go into Atlanta. You did not need to open up other markets. Like you could have just been good where you were in Austin, but that's just not who we are, right? So I think if I were to look back in the last 5 years, where we started versus where we are right now, like the Steve that was 5 years ago would look at today and be like, man, like that, like you guys are doing really well. Today I'm like, well, no, like how much further can we push this? Like what else is available to us that we're not thinking of? Let's go bigger, better, faster, and really just like, make a dent, disrupt the market, stir some shit up and have a lot of fun doing it. And we've lost a lot of money, we've made a lot of money, like it's money. And I think part of this whole thing, this process, if you will, it's called life, is just, kind of finding yourself through the process. And that's the thing that I realize now more than anything I value most, is that this real estate thing has helped me find, really, I think, who I'm meant to be. And that's cool. That's priceless.
Gosh.
Awesome. No, that's great, man. I love that. So if I kind of reflect back, there's a couple things that stand out for me. One, I think that at times we were too quick to delegate and outsource aspects of our business that were really vital. Like, for example, marketing, right? It's really kind of the anchor for what we do as a wholesaler. And we basically entrusted that function with another group, another individual, much too early in the process, where we didn't even really fully understand the function of marketing, how to successfully market, how to track, report, correct. So that was definitely a lesson learned for us, and we've since kind of regained control of that, and it's given us so much more visibility and the ability to make decisions much more quickly. So that's one thing that really stands out for me. One of the other things, and if I look back at the last 6 or 7 months for Steve and I, something that has really changed is the speed at which we're moving. Like and I'm really can be very guilty of sort of the analysis paralysis and really wanting to understand everything. And to Steve's earlier point, you're not going to get it all, right? Like there has to be a level of blind faith and trust in the group that you have around you, the mentors, the support that you have, to be able to kind of go and adapt, make decisions quickly, measure and adjust as needed. And so I think we've really adopted that mantra this year, this idea of like speed and certainty. So it was like the conversation that started off this year for us, and as a result of it, the amount of change that we've implemented, plus the ability to allow us to think much bigger, has really kind of taken flight for us. So I would encourage people that are really kind of getting a start to really just move quickly, right? Move quickly and understand there's really nothing that you can do that is so bad that you can't recover from it. There's no, conversation that you're going to have with a seller or a buyer that you can't fix if it truly, goes in the wrong direction, and just have some faith in yourself and your ability to be able to adapt with whatever is presented to you, because there's going to be a heck of a lot of ambiguity and challenges thrown your way as you grow this thing up, but just kind of move quickly through it allows you to just push and grow. So a couple things stand out for me.
All right, so let's get down into the weeds of it here, gentlemen. Let's talk about starting from the beginning, how, and I want to go through the exact process. And by the way, for those of you that are new here, you have been given access to our Certified Wholesaling Specialist course. And so if you're new to wholesaling in general, your very first assignment is that all of these trainings and these coaching calls are going to be designed with basically to layer over the top of certified wholesaling. They are not designed to teach you wholesaling 101. There's an entire course that you've been given access to online that will do all of that for you. So there's literally no reason for us to do that. It would be redundant. And so how to go and do the marketing, how to go and find the buyers, how to find the sellers, do all that stuff. We're going to talk about it on specifically about what they're doing, but I want you to understand the mechanics of the deal. It's all covered for you. Get into the Certified Wholesaling Specialist course. These guys have gone through it, as have thousands of other people, right? It is literally the best wholesaling training that you can go through. In fact, I know that you guys actually send your own employees through it, right? When you're training, you send them through the academy on stuff. Yeah. And so you guys that are watching this have access to it. Do not skip ahead of the line and waste anybody's time. Get in the course because everything you need is there. Now, with all that being said, let's talk about first. You guys are actively and continue to market for cash buyers today, correct?
Absolutely.
And how do you do that? I'm assuming that you guys do that through Smart, or is there any other mechanisms that you're using?
Yeah, so Smart is kind of the anchor. So we always, and again, kind of following your direction, Kent, have marketing going out, right? Like we're constantly sending out mail to cash buyers. We also use the data to basically target specific individuals. So for example, we'll look at cash transactions the past 6 months, and we'll look for people that are doing volume, right? And then we'll skip trace and we'll call and we'll text and we'll do what we can to get in front of those people. So definitely leveraging Smart, and there's a handful of other sources to get cash buyer data. As kind of, it's always going for us, and we'll pull that list every 3 months, we'll refresh it, and we'll always make sure that we're we're getting in front of those people. In addition to that, we're very active on Facebook. So we have one of our team members basically spends 4 hours a day, Monday to Friday, on Facebook, reaching out to prospective investors that are active in different forums, private messaging, trying to engage with people that seem to be active, to basically bring them into our funnel, qualify them, get them on our distribution list, and really we're looking for those whales, right? Those people that are really doing volume. So that is something that is always happening. And then I'd say the third piece of our disposition arm is really tapping into the MLS. So, when we get a property, we will, we'll pull a list of cash transactions, typically a quarter mile to half a mile radius. We'll look at who was the agent involved in the transaction. We'll also then look at who was the buyer, right, by looking up on county records, and then we'll skip trace, we'll text all of the agents, we'll email all of the agents to try to make a connection that way. And then for the buyers, we'll typically call those people in addition to texting them. So it's really, it's the data through Smart, it's social media, and then it's the MLS. Those are right now kind of the three main places we go to constantly be building our buyers list. On average, I'd say we're adding 20 or so new buyers to our network daily, kind of following that.
That's good. That's good. All right, so now let's go to the other side. Let's actually talk about what you're doing to create deal flow on the sales side, right? And then we'll get right down into what I really want to do, Steve, here is really get into that conversation like we did on one of our previous calls.
Yeah.
But let's talk about real quick, how are you generating distressed seller or any motivated seller leads right now? Walk me through the mechanics of it.
Yeah, so again, we'll leverage Smart and a few other data providers to basically get the data. We do that quarterly. So at the beginning of the quarter, we have our marketing plan and our forecast in place, so we know how many leads we need to generate, and we'll reverse engineer that. So we know exactly how many records we need. We skip trace. We basically, again, at the beginning of the quarter, we'll go in a couple 100,000 records. We'll get all the information that we need. Once we have that, then we roll it out, right? So we'll mail it, we'll cold call, we'll SMS, and basically, those are kind of, I'd say, like our three core pillars for driving seller leads, which then basically come into the ecosystem that we've created, right? And we have, a dedicated SMS team that works all the SMS leads. We have a cold call team that's proactively reaching out, qualifying the leads, and then basically, pushing over any viable lead is kind of, we define it, over to our acquisition team, who then basically pick up on it and basically take it through our acquisition process.
So you guys are defining, basically what you've got is effectively, let's just call it, almost like a prospecting part of your business, right? Where inbound leads are coming in or outbound leads are being called and or text, and somebody is trying to figure out, is this something that is actually viable, to your point, a viable opportunity? And at that point, when it is a viable, so what are they doing to figure out if it is viable? Basically, are they just getting somebody to raise their hand and say, yeah, I'd be interested in entertaining an offer? Is it as simple as that?
Yeah, so for the SMS team, what they're looking for is, is there interest in receiving an offer from us and ideally selling within the next 30 to 60 days. That's sort of kind of the high level. We don't criteria. We're really not trying to screen too heavily on the front end because, we have typically VAs, right, that are doing this for us, and it's hard to sometimes decipher true motivation through a text message. Even our cold call team, right? They're Steve manages that team and he can speak to, he's spent a lot of time kind of working with them to kind of train them on the behavior to really uncover the motivation. But at the end of the day, what we tell them is if there's interest in receiving an offer and potentially they're considering selling within the next 30, 60 days, push that lead over and let's get our closers, our acquisition guys on the phone with those leads to really go deeper with them. So that's kind of how we define it.
That makes sense. All right, I got it. And so now you guys have defined it as an opportunity, and we'll take a look, if you got whatever you guys want to share. But bottom line is, something is now coming, as you mentioned earlier, Josh, coming into your ecosystem. So now you have an acquisitions arm of your business, whether that's Steve or other guys that are sitting there looking at this and saying, okay, this person has raised their hand. Now we need to actually do outreach, get on the phone with them and start the process, if you will. Correct, Steve?
Ken,
Yeah.
Ken, do you want us to show kind of what that looks like from the acquisitions
Sure.
perspective?
Let me see if I can. Hold on a second here.
Because what happens here is that, so first of all, like between Josh and I, like we manage all these resources, right? So it's not just like we're hiring people from the Philippines or from South America or wherever and just letting them do their thing, right? So like we have, weekly, bi-weekly huddle calls with them, daily communication conversations, like literally they are incorporated and embedded in our team. So, we manage them, KPIs, everything, from talk time to, we have it nailed down to the point where like they should not be more than 30 seconds in between phone calls, our cold call team. And if they are, then we know that, okay, it might be a modem issue, or maybe there's a connection issue, or something else is going on, right? So we have to have that conversation with them. So it is a fairly dialed in process, because what we've found in the past is when you outsource these sorts of things, if you do not keep a finger on the pulse, you'll lose it, right? And you'll lose touch with what's really going on. So actually, Ken, what I might do is, Josh, can you share your screen?
Yep, I'll make Josh the presenter. Give me a second.
Yeah.
You want to go into Zen call, Steve?
Yeah, go into Zen call, and then we can just kind of show that, and then we can show the priority lists and how we've synchronized them with the acquisitions. And then the acquisition, so this is where the acquisitions team, they live in here. And they don't really have to think about who they're going to dial. They have their follow-up list and their hot list and things like that, which we can get into later if we want. But this is like, if you think of it like this is new business, right? We're trying to re-engage with people that have maybe we've had opportunities in the past, or we're engaging with them for the first time. So
Sorry, can I just clarify? I got two monitors going on here. Are you guys seeing Zen call right now, or are you seeing?
no, our master SOP.
Okay. Okay,
So that's
let me pull
okay.
this. That's all right. We can show that too.
That's a big list.
Sorry, it didn't give me the option to pick. Now you seen Zen call now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Ken, I just want to touch on one of the comments you made there. So for one of the challenges that we experienced was, well, it's the prioritization and the thought that is required by a typical acquisition manager to decipher what leads they need to call first. And so that was kind of one of the driving requirements for us to move towards this platform, which is called Zen Call. And it's basically, a dialer on steroids that we have integrated with all of our marketing providers and vendors, our SMS platform. It's integrated with our Podio. And so for our acquisitions team, they quite literally, when they come in, they start their day, they get on the Zen call, they jump in ready status, and the system starts dialing because we've already set up all of the priorities. We have playlists, and Steve, you can speak to that.
You can even, Josh, you can even just go into the view office map and we can see exactly who's on what, who's wrapping up phone calls. I can plug into any one of my guys right now and listen to their phone calls, right? So if you go view office map.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. There you are. So here we have, we have our cold call team. So Gina, Romel, Mars, Riza, those are our cold callers right now that are currently on their shift. We have Tommy, Lucas, and Devin. So those two, Devin and Lucas, they've been with us the longest. They're hopefully doing something. They're in training right now. So they're probably, doing ARVs or perhaps doing follow-up calls. Tommy's just wrapping up a phone call. So this gives me visibility into what's happening, and there's different reports that happen throughout the day. But we can plug as many people as we want into this system. Like I feel like we have enough leads in our system right now where we could hire another 10 people, and we'd still have more leads. So it's a great system for scaling. And again, to Josh's point, one of the biggest things being in an acquisition spot is is, you know, is like having to go through and like manually dial phone numbers or like, okay, follow up task. This just takes all of that away from it.
So bottom line is you guys have these people doing outbound calls. You have a system for management in Zen Call. Let's and this is kind of the next iteration as somebody is growing their business, right? Let's talk about for a minute, you know, going back to when you guys send out marketing, it comes back, or you're doing whatever you're doing, a call comes in and an acquisitions person is getting on the phone, right? Show me and let's talk about that. Kind of somebody is, they got a lead, right? And they know what they've got to do today. They got to go ahead and call on however many leads have now been turned into real opportunities. Walk us through that process.
Well, so for an inbound, basically, if they're logged into ZenCall, the way we have the call routing, right, that their phone will ring, and basically it hits the acquisition floor, and the first person to grab it gets that conversation, right? So that's how the inbounds work. So again, in theory, we're going to have at any given point, all three of our acquisitions people will be in here. So other than training status, they're going to be prompted to take that inbound call. So they take the inbound call. It's going to pre-populate with all the information pertaining to the lead. So, you know, what campaign was it? Have we had any past conversations with them? Are there any previous notes? You know, because this could be a recycled lead or a callback or something else. And so they basically would, you know, as they're talking to the lead, be looking at the history and then taking them through the acquisition process, which Steve can speak to, and then dispositioning the lead in ZenCall. So the whole idea here is that they live in ZenCall. The only time they're really coming over into our CRM is to manage their sort of their any specific tasks that they've scheduled for themselves, or in some cases progressing a lead over to, say, you know, our deal board or something like that. But other than that, they're constantly just working inbound leads that are coming into the system, and then when they're ready, they're dialing out to any of the leads, the priority viable leads that have been pushed over into that call queue.
All right, so Steve, your acquisitions guys are on the phone, and let's talk about what's happening on the call.
Yeah, so do we want to get out of Zen Call here?
Yeah. Can you drop me, remove my share?
Yep,
and then, yeah, so the acquisitions, are you wanting me to kind of go more into the script right now and the psychology of it all?
Yep.
Okay, so you know, first of all, you know, the wholesaler like the mastery course that you have, Kent, that's how Josh and I started, right? So if anyone is new on this or hears this later, wondering where to start and want to get started in wholesaling, like 100%, I would recommend that course. That's, you know, Josh and I, that's where we started. I remember you mentioned something about an assignment, and I thought of our first assignment contract and started laughing because we had no idea what we were doing. But that's a good place to start. Sales for me has really kind of, sales for me has taken on this whole new form. It's something that I've become super passionate about, and not just sales. I think, you know, people there's a negative connotation with sales. Really, it's just becoming an effective communicator. And the more effective of a communicator you can become, the better you'll be at this. And really, at the end of the day, going into an acquisitions call or a sales call, you have to just remind yourself that all you're doing is you're having another conversation with a person, another human being. That's it. Where I think people often get a bit nervous about or apprehensive about having the phone call is they feel like it has to be perfect, and it does not have to be perfect. I mean, by no means like you have to ask all of the questions. If you approach it, I tell my guys, if you approach it just like purely just wanting to get to know the person, understand their challenges, their pain points, you know, and work on how we can solve those solutions or those problems. What kind of solutions can we provide them with? You'll be ahead of the competition, because a lot of people, what they do is they go through and they have their checklist of about 5 questions that they ask. You know, age of the home, bed, baths, mechanical, you know, roof, electrical, plumbing, windows, and foundation. And that's really all they get to, and then they get to price right away. And what you have to understand is that people and this goes for everyone, and I use this example a lot because I think almost everyone can relate to it. And it is when you go buy a car, okay, and you step foot on that lot, the person that meets you and greets you at that point, like their job is to understand what it is that you're looking for and to keep you on that lot as long as possible, period. The longer you stay there, the higher percentages of you buying a car. And when you actually sit down at the desk after you test drove that car, you're screwed, right? Like you're at the desk now, and he's going to go talk to the manager, and they're not really talking about much other than, yeah, we got this guy. And you're thinking there, like, yeah, I'm buying this car. I'm not like leaving this lot without that car. And there's no way I'm driving whatever I drove on here out, right? It's going to be this car. And the same thing goes with this. The longer you can have someone on the phone and get them speaking about themselves and what it is that they're looking to accomplish by selling their house, the better position you're going to be in. And the more, regardless of price, the more likely they're going to be going with you. And you can do this virtually. You can do this over the phone. You do not have to be in person to have this sort of rapport building, actually, in place. In fact, people often will say after a while, and you'll get used to this, is like, man, I feel like I've known you for a while. I don't know why I'm telling you what I'm telling you, but yeah, I like you more than this other person. And it's only because I've listened to them and I've worked at understanding what their true problem is. And it's never really about selling the house, right? They're selling the house because of a reason. And the more you can understand what that reason is, the better position you're going to be in to actually get the sale. So, that's one thing that, my team is like, we practice on a daily basis is, how can we become better communicators? So, one of the things that we do is we want to try to make it super simple, easy. And everything that we do, it's always easy. Like this is going to be easy work. Like, we realize that you can't force someone to sell. There's no spin selling. There's no way that you can, convince someone that they're going to sell your house. Like either the person's going to sell their house or they're not going to sell their house. Like there's no way about it. I mean, eventually they'll sell their house and you can get them on a follow-up call. But in today's market right now, someone is either going to sell their house or they're not, period. You can't force it. And so don't even waste your time with people that are like, I'm just tire kicking, right? Or I could sell in like 6 months, or they're just not interested. For us, we want to work with the people that we can actually truly solve their issues or their problems. And so when we get into the script here, first thing that we do is we introduce ourselves. And in this market,
I'm gonna make you the presenter, okay?
Okay, yeah. And I may have updated an iteration of this here. Can you guys see that? What screen are you looking at here?
Yep,
Yeah.
we can. If you blow that up on your screen, we can see it. There you go.
All right. So I think this might be, there's a newer version of this, although it is still very much the same here. There hasn't been much that's changed. This will work. But basically, when we get involved, like when we start, the idea here is that people often will say like, oh, well, you know what, you gotta match the person on the phone. And I say, no, screw that. Let them match you, right? We want to be excited. We want to be confident. We want to be assumptive. Like we want to come off, excited about what we do. Like who wants to sell their house to someone who's just blah? I personally don't. Like, so when we get an inbound or outbound phone call, basically it starts the same. Hey, look, it's Steve from Tallbridge Investments here. I'm one of the senior buying specialists. Your file came across my desk from one of our junior associates regarding your property at 123 Main Street. And whether or not you have junior associates or cold call team, it doesn't really matter. Or if it's just yourself, adapt the script so that it works for you, right? If it's an inbound phone call, we adjust it obviously for more of an inbound salutation. But basically what we do is we say, hey, look, I just wanted to go over some of the details of the property. I apologize in advance if some of this is redundant. I just want to make sure that we have all of the correct facts here so that we can give you our best offer. Now, does that sound okay? And usually you'll get a few yeses and nods or hums and haws in that scenario there. Now what I've done here is we've adapted this slightly just to match the time that we're in, right? And one of the first things that, you know, we have, and this is more of a conversation that I have with my team, it's not something that's scripted, but you want to build rapport with people right away, okay? So the quicker you can build that rapport and make someone comfortable, the more likely they're going to be to share the information that you need to get from them. And really what you're looking for is to build a story, right? If you look at this as building a story and you're trying to get the context, right? It's like if you're listening to a movie without sound, you wouldn't really understand what was going on. But the moment you turn the sound on, everything makes sense. You have the music, it's a horror movie, and you have that scary music which terrifies you, and you know, without that music it wouldn't be anything. So same sort of thing here. It's like you're building the context. And what we're doing right now is we literally say like, wow, like this is a crazy time right now. I hope everyone in your family is safe and healthy. And we start with more of a personalized note right now than we have ever before. And the reason for that is because we want to, first of all, address the situation that we're all faced with. Secondly, we want to open the door for conversation, right? And so we don't just jump right into immediately, okay, well, let's talk more about the property. We talk about the situation, right? And really what we're trying to understand there is the context. Like, is this someone that is needing to sell their house within the next 30, 60 days, or is it someone that is, you know, kind of just, you know, kicking tires and interested in getting an offer? If they're interested in getting an offer, then that's something that we can still give them, but it's, you know, we're going to say like perhaps it's better for us to have this conversation at a later date. So going into the pre-qualification section here, what we do is we then, you know, after we built that rapport and we've had some conversations about COVID and, you know, kind of what we're seeing there out in the market and that sort of thing, what we'll do is we start going into, okay, you know, we you know the area well, we've bought a home right next to this house or close to this house or in this area, close vicinity or whatever. Maybe you haven't bought a home in the area, but you can say, look, yeah, very familiar with the area. I just analyzed a property not far from here. You know, and are you, you know, so basically we look at, you know, we'd love to make an offer on your home. Are you considering selling within the next 30 to 60 days? So if you haven't already gotten that information from them from before, you know, asking that question for us just really makes us better understand how quickly they want this to move, right? If it's not 30 to 60 days, we'll still go through the process, but we'll have it as a lower priority and focus on the stuff that is, you know, 30 to 60 days out. So then we go here and we confirm, you know, the property address, the street, you know, name, that sort of thing, and just, you know, try to familiarize ourselves with the area. Then we get into this pre-qualification section here, and basically what we're doing here is we're saying, you know, our process is very simple, because it is very simple. Oftentimes that we feel like people can really overcomplicate things, and it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. You know, so our process is very simple. We just need to ask you a few questions about your property. That way we can go ahead and evaluate your property and make sure that, you know, we can provide you with the very best offer, and this process takes about 7 minutes. There we're looking for, you know, like, sound good, yes, that's okay, yeah, I have the time, that sort of thing, right? It takes longer than 7 minutes in most cases, especially if they are someone that is truly interested in selling their house. It might take 20 and you get a contract, or it might take a couple days and you get a contract. It really just depends.
Let's talk about this for a second, because I think
Sure.
this is really important. I want people to understand what you're doing here, kind of add some context to this. So when you're talking to somebody, ladies and gentlemen, on the phone, or when you're sitting down with somebody face to face, it is pretty easy to read body language. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand if somebody's leaning forward and they're interested, or somebody's sitting back like this, right, and they're completely disengaged with you, right? That doesn't take a lot to understand that. We intuitively can dial in on that. It's a lot more complicated or complex to do that over the phone. So this is an important thing to be listening for those ums and ahs. It's an important thing to understand what's going on. But it's one thing that you're doing here from the very beginning with the 7-minute comment is what's called future pacing somebody. right? So the easiest way to get somebody to go like this, whether you can physically see it or not, but you have to assume that they're probably a little closed off, to get them to come in like this is to let them know, and I want everybody to write this down, what's in it for me. Give me some kind of timeline, give me some kind of outcome, give me some kind of where this conversation is not open-ended. When somebody is on a call with you and they don't really understand what's in it for them, number one, or how long this is going to take, they will naturally keep their guard up, which, and again, I want you to write this down, everybody, that that basically, if they don't understand that what's happening is there's two conversations going on in their head. Okay, and this is what I want you to write down. You have to get the conversation that's going on in their head. One of those conversations has got to be quieted, has got to. So here's what's going on. You're having a verbal conversation with them. They're kind of listening. The other conversation that's going on in their head is, dude, what the hell's going on? Is this guy or girl trying to screw me? How long do I have to be on this call? What time is lunch? When do I have to pick up the kids from school? When do we have to, I mean, there's all this other noise going on. So the way you quiet that is with the 7-minute comment, right? Hey, this is only going to take about 7 minutes. By the end of it, I can get you here, here, and here. I'm going to, in the outcome, I'm going to try to get you an offer on the property. Those things are basically taking down all that noise inside of their head where they're intently focused on you. So they go from this and they go to this. And when you get them there, now all of a sudden, to your point, you have rapport and you can start to have a more meaningful conversation. So keep going.
Do you see that I just put the new script up?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That was in our old SOP section in Podio, so I got to replace it with this one. So this is the one that that I think I sent you guys so that you can share with it.
This is actually inside of the Facebook group for you guys. So, you can
it even has setting the stage, right? So it has proper kind of titles and that sort of thing in there. So setting the stage, and that's exactly what Kent just talked about, setting the stage. And you know, people need to know what it is. Like, they're not there just, you know, their time is valuable as well, and you got to respect it. So, you know, great. Typically people who want to know what, you know, how we do it, what we do, that sort of thing, and how much we can offer for your property, you know, those kinds of things. Do you have those types of questions, right? So of course they have those questions. They're going to say yes to this. You're looking for little micro agreements. You're looking for them to get involved in this conversation. You know, then we go into kind of a bit of a value add here, and this is all perfectly laid out for the particular reason, because it's getting you to where you need to get to with this person. So process takes about 7 minutes. You know, so they'll say, sound good, yes, okay. Again, it's very simple. I need to ask you a few basic questions about your property so I can go ahead and evaluate, you know, this right here, right now kind of thing. And then at the end of this, you know, we'll go through, you know, your options. You know, and we can just let you know, you can let us know what you'd like to do. Very important here. So if at any stage you feel like this isn't the right fit for you, and perhaps you don't like me, I make a little joke here, perhaps you don't like me, or whatever the case may be, maybe you don't like Kent, you know, we can go back and try and fix where we went wrong. And at the end of the day, if the answer is no, this isn't going to work for you, that's okay. So we make it okay for someone to say no, and what that gives them is the power. They feel like they have the power to say no. And you know, I say something here that is, I think, very important, because it's something everyone can agree with, and it really is a great transition into the next thing. And it makes no sense really as far as, you know, as it relates to real estate, but it's a blanketed statement. And really what this does is, now we've agreed, if they can agree to this next sentence, what you've done is you can hold them to it, right? And at the end of the day, I say it's all about communication. And I'm sure you agree that open communication is what makes everything go smoother. And if they say yes to that, and if I'm starting to get resistance when it comes to things like talking about price or, you know, motivation as to why they're leaving, I can say, hey, you know what, like, beginning of this conversation, we were talking about how, you know, important open communication is on these phone calls, right? And I really truly want to try and help you here, but if we can't have that open communication, we're going to run into some problems. And immediately you're calling them out in a nice way, and they're going to say, yeah, you're right. Okay, I'm kind of looking for this price. It works almost all the time. So that's why that's there, and it's not something to be overlooked. Then we get into contact information here. Okay, pretty self-explanatory. And then we get into property condition. Okay, so these are just the nuts and bolts really of what it is that you're trying to understand here. And as you get better at doing this, and as you become more comfortable with the script, what our team does at the exact same time as they're asking these questions, they'll have on another screen, they'll have either PropStream or REI Automator, or MLS is what we prefer to use. And they're going and they're actually looking at properties and comping properties as they're going through this information. So that way we're getting an idea of roughly where we need to be at in terms of price based on the information they're giving us. And some of the tricks that we do to do this quickly, because comping properties for some people, Josh and I, we were there at 1.2. Hey Josh, like remember
Oh
when we were
man, you can
like,
spend like an
hours?
hour comping a property. Ridiculous. Yeah.
And then it was actually not too long ago, someone's like, well, why don't you guys just look at what cash buyers are buying for? Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, why are we doing ARVs and all these calculations when really oh, there's a group of cash sales that have happened in the cash transactions that have happened in the area, and they're all 3-bedroom 2-bath houses that fall between 60 and 100,000. Well, maybe we might need to be somewhere in there. So that's just a way that our team now does it, just at a quick glance to see, roughly where cash sales are. And Ken, I think you might have software now, right? That can help with that.
Yeah,
Am I
for
wrong?
years. I mean, our find comps now was kind of the go-to, and now that's basically baked into Smart. So if you go under
Mm.
I believe it's under tools. Oh no, it's going to be under the search where it says find comps now. If you go there,
Right.
it'll do the exact same thing.
So great tool. So you already have this, right? Like most people already have this. And if you don't, get it, because it's going to make life a whole heck of a lot easier. So once you get through this here and you're asking these questions, and again, you've set the stage, you've built the rapport with the person, now you're having this free-flowing conversation with this person, and you're really starting to get to know them. Now here comes the interesting part. So this is the motivation, and mirroring and labeling. The person that I got this from was Chris Voss, VOSS, a great book, Never Split the Difference. He does live trainings and stuff like that, but he's an FBI investigator, and man, just like I could go on for a long time about him, so I won't, but get the book. If you want to become better at communication, especially at negotiating, this is a must read for people. He also has a master class, that master class that's online as well that you can look at. But really what happens here is you say like, look, this sounds like a property we might be interested in. I'm just curious, like why are you thinking of selling? Okay, and now what happens here with mirrors, and mirrors are basically just as they sound, you're mirroring the person, and what you're mirroring is you're looking for, if someone says, like Ken, if you tell me like, oh, I'm looking to relocate, and instead of saying like immediately after that, oh, where are you going? Why are you really, you say, oh, you're relocating, and you get them to elaborate, and you do a series of these mirrors and labels. So you could do 3 mirrors. So really all you're doing is you're mirroring the last kind of 3 things that someone says, but positioning it back to them as a question, and they elaborate on it. It's amazing how simple this technique is and how well it works. You can do this for negotiating as well, and before you know it, people will actually start negotiating with themselves, and their price gets lower, and you haven't really said shit. But mirroring is a great way to have the conversation without saying too much, and it really gets the person speaking. So you're relocating. Oh, so you're relocating. Oh yeah, no, my job's taking me here, or your job's taking, and it's just like, it's that simple. Like your job's just taking you there. And at the end of the day, you start to get to, okay, well, there's a feeling that's going to, and you have to listen for this, because there's going to be a point where you're going to sense apprehension somewhere. There's going to be a situation, and this is where a label is super important. So, and you have to think a little bit here. So if you're putting yourself in that person's position, right, and you're putting yourself in there, and they're relocating, and there's maybe a time issue there, and they need to get over here quickly, or perhaps they're downsizing their home and they want to be closer to their grandkids, or they're facing a foreclosure situation, okay? You have to stop and think a bit, okay? Put yourself in their position. What kind of feeling is that going to create? Most times, I'm going to just let you guys know, it's going to be stress, anxiety, fear. Those are predominantly what someone's going to be feeling. So you label it, okay? So, wow, it sounds like it's somewhat of a stressful situation you're in, isn't it? And again, they're going to go off on telling you about how stressful the situation is, right? And you can really, really spend a lot of time here, and you need to spend a lot of time here, because this is where everyone else goes wrong. Even people who physically meet the person, they're so concerned about looking what's underneath the sink. And I'm like looking at, okay, well, what is it that we can do in helping this person not be stressed out anymore? So we start looking at, okay, well, what other areas of your life, is this causing issues in, like with your family? Like, I know when I get stressed out, and I start yelling at Josh, my business partner, and he hits me when he's stressed, and all this other stuff, right? And so, like, you can start really getting into it. And of course, I'm being funny here. He doesn't actually hit me that hard, but stress causes problems, right? So, oh, well, how does that affect your family life? How does that affect, what's going on in your life, your work, your relationships? Yeah, no, it hasn't been good. Well, how like we could fix this, and it doesn't have to be difficult. Like, what kind of price are you looking at here? Like, if I could give you a number, right, what would that number be to remove all of this from you, so you don't have to be stressed anymore? And by that time, you've built such a good relationship and such a good rapport with this person that conversation tends to happen a lot easier.
I love that.
So you're kind of paraphrasing here, like timeline, like you're going through, again, this motivation, the mirror and the labeling is something that's so super important. And you're going to get naturally a lot of these things here: timeline, amount owed, home value. Like, I haven't done my research yet, which of course you have, because you've done this here. And maybe you haven't yet. So this is okay if you haven't. Maybe you're getting used to comping and stuff like that. That's fine. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect, right? Yeah, I haven't done my research yet, but considering the condition, repeat the repairs. It sounds like, it's something that we're interested in. Have you put any thought into, what it is that you're looking to get for it? And oftentimes they may not know, right? And that's okay. And so what you do there in the situations where they don't know, you go back to those cash sales that you have in SMART, and you look for the one that's the lowest, okay? And this is solely just to set an anchor price to see how far off you are. Okay, well, look, I see this one on Main Street that's just down the street from your house, and it looks like it's sold, 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, similar condition. The roof looks like it's a bit dated and old as well. So this one sold for 60,000, and you literally stop. You just stop. You just say 60,000. You throw it out there, and you just let it sit there. You don't say shit. And you wait and you listen, and you have to listen, people, because if you interrupt this one thing, you screw yourself out of negotiation right then and there. And so you let it just sit there, and you're listening, and you're going to get a couple.
And it's uncomfortable though, eh, Steve?
Oh, so uncomfortable. But you start to love it, because you realize that there's a psychology behind this, right? And oftentimes, like, you think that there's like a silence, and silence is bad. Silence is not bad. You have someone who's analytical like Josh, or more analytical like Josh, and they need time to process this shit, right? You get someone like me, and I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel right away. And you got to listen to this. So like if for someone like Josh, he needs time to digest what it is that you just threw at him, and he's going through the emotional and then the logical, and then he's going to try and rationalize what he's thinking. For me, I'm more of an emotional person right away, and so for me, like I will let you know through some sort of sigh, excitement, tone, voice, those sorts of things, how I'm feeling. So if I give, that's a good sign. That's something like I'm thinking about this, and I'm actually evaluating if $60,000 is okay. But you have to allow that person to go through their process, and it's uncomfortable when you're in it and you're not that person, because I think naturally we want to try and fix things right away. So it's uncomfortable and we want to try and fix it, and you don't want to do that, because the moment you start trying to fix it, you're screwing up the process. Everything you've just worked for right now is going down the drain, because now you're trying to overcompensate for their silence. Don't do that. So basically what you want to do here at this stage is you really want to just allow for that to, whatever answer they come up with, no, there's no effing way I'm selling my house for that price. Oh, okay, so, let me ask you that, like, what are you thinking is a good price then? Because remember, they just told you that they didn't know, but clearly they know, because if 60 is not a good price, then, well, what is the price?
Right.
Well, I know it's not 60,000. It's not 60,000. You get back into the mirrors and the labels, right? You don't try and defend your position. You get back into the mirroring and the labeling. Every time you're met with some sort of objection or resistance, I want you to automatically remember, mirror and label, mirror and label. Oh, not 60,000. And they will start talking about their price, and you will get that price from them. So very important here when it comes to, kind of digging into that price point. And again, over time, you're going to be more effective at this, and it's going to come naturally, and it's not going to take you as long to get to this, and it's going to feel more comfortable. But you have to start somewhere, and you have to start practicing, because this sort of thing is so super important if you want to get good at doing this virtually. This you have to learn this. There's no way of getting around it. Don't outsource it to someone in the Philippines, because it's not going to work. How do we know? Because we've done it. So don't do that. You have to get good at this stuff.
I love this. I love this. This is great stuff, dude. So if you guys are digging on this, do me a favor, go in the comments that we can all see. Steve, Josh, myself, we can all see this. I would love to know that this is being beneficial to you guys. We got about 15 minutes before we're going to wrap this up.
Okay.
I wanted to spend, we've got a lot of, I want to spend a lot of time on this today, because in some of our other sessions we get, we don't, and keep in mind, guys, you guys have all access to all 6 of these that we've done so far. This is really, really important, because again, keeping in mind, we haven't done anything to actually, go out and see a property. So assuming we can get a property under contract here, Steve, let's kind of jump ahead for a second.
Yep.
Now, once we get it under contract, we still got to get pictures. We still got to get this kind of stuff. Let's walk everybody through very quickly what the process is. While you've got them on the call, are you immediately sending them a contract?
Sometimes, yeah. So ideally, that's the end goal. Like you got to know your outcome before you get into it. And that's something that Josh and I.
Steve, you're showing your Slack right now, FYI.
Oh, okay. Kent, how do I stop sharing my screen?
I will do it right now.
Now what am I showing?
Don't worry about it. We got you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Are we good now?
You're good.
Good.
All right. So that's something that, yeah, Josh and I have worked a lot on, in making it so that our system can send contracts out, like literally on the spot while we're on the phone with someone, and in a matter of seconds they have it in their inbox.
And you're using DocuSign to do this?
Well, so we it's not in, we have DocuSign, but we actually use FormStack, which is integrated with Podio. Same
Bottom
idea.
line is you're automatically sending the contract with the price that you guys have discussed on the phone, and you're sending it over, ideally with them on the phone that you can walk them through it, but at a minimum, you're basically getting a contract in front of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So at some point here, you know, if we've gotten to the stage that we just kind of ended on, there's one other quick part here I want to just add, and it's the marination process is what we call it. And the marination process is where you come to some sort of agreement on price, and they say, you know, I'll do it if, you know, not 60, but if you do 75, I'll do 75. You say, okay, look, I don't know if I can do 75. Let me just put you on a quick hold here and see what I can do. And you don't put them on like a hold, you just put them on mute, because you can actually hear the conversation as you're letting them just think about it. And so you can pick up some context there. But the idea behind having them sit there and wait is, again, you're allowing them to think. And when you come back on the phone, you're able to say to them like, look, you know, either it works or it doesn't. If 75 works, or like, hey, it doesn't, you know, we're close. I can't do 75, but I can do 69,700. Can we make a deal? If we can make that work, we can get this done today. At that stage, by that time, you spent so much time, you're like that person that's sitting at the car dealership desk, and they're going to go with you. To go through this whole process again with someone else is just not worth it at that stage. So then it comes time to send the contract. And if you've done a good job at building rapport and building a relationship and solving a problem, this next part is easy. You send the contract, you go over the contract with them in person, and sometimes they may need, you know, a night to do it, or maybe there's another person that a lawyer or something that needs to see it. And we're pretty lenient with that stuff, but within about a 24-hour period, we need an answer. And ideally, it's even quicker than that, because we do not want our contracts sitting out there being shopped around. So often, if they need to show a contract to someone, or an attorney or a realtor, we're sending them a blank document. And when they're ready for the real one, then we send them the real one. But the expectation is that they're signing that contract, they're on the spot, and if they're not ready, then they're not ready. We'll call them when they are.
Okay. And so now they sign the contract, they send it back. Walk us through the process of getting the pictures and everything that you're going to need in order to sell the property to a buyer.
Yeah, so this has become more and more of an issue in this I guess COVID world that we're living in right now. Hey, Josh.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
So, you know, the challenge that we're faced with now is getting photos. So what we've now positioned is like, look, or having people walk through the property. So now it's, you know, we have a sheet that we use that we actually got from one of the boardroom members, Aaron. We've modified it a bit, but basically we're having the homeowners or the tenants go through and take photos for us, and laid out in a very particular way. And the acquisitions people, I mean, we've had some delays in getting this, but now we're within 24 hours, you're sending us photos, and we're having that advanced agreement with the sellers up front now to avoid any sort of delays in getting pictures. So we get the pictures, we start the marketing, I do the underwriting, and then I push it over to Josh.
Yeah, and so Kent, the only other scenario I'd throw out in terms of pictures, and where I think we've had a lot of success, is actually leveraging some of our VIP relationships with our buyers. So if we can't get pictures from the seller, then we will, as part of our initial steps in the disposition of the deal, we'll contact, you know, one or two specific VIPs that we know are highly likely to be interested in the property, and we'll basically give them a first right of refusal on the deal. So we'll say, you know, Mr. Buyer, you know, here's an opportunity. We've tied it up. It's purchase sight unseen. I think it's going to be a good fit for you. Here's, you know, we've pre-negotiated. Here's where it's going to be priced, because we've done the underwriting on it, and we'll basically say, you know, if you want to go take a look at this first, we'll do that for you. All that I'd ask is, if you choose not to buy it, if you could send me, you know, 20, 30 pictures of the property, so that we can use that to either go back to the seller or potentially remarket the deal out to some of our other investors. And that's worked out really, really well for us.
Yeah, I love that, because basically what you're doing is, hey, it's an exchange of value, right?
Yeah.
You guys get first right of refusal. I'm gonna bring value to you by letting you get a first look. This is my price, period.
Yeah.
But I need pictures, I need video, because if you don't take it, I'm gonna have to market to other people, right? Everybody wins.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's still happening in today's market, right? Like we have a property, we have a couple properties in Atlanta right now where that very particular situation has occurred or is occurring right now in today's market.
I love that. I love that. All right, so gentlemen, I want to be very aware of your time here. I appreciate you doing this and walking everybody through this. For those of you that are watching this, this is extremely valuable. And we did a very, very deep dive on really the negotiation with the seller, right? And how, I mean, their script is inside of the Facebook group. So if you're not already in the Facebook group, make sure that you go get inside of the Facebook group. But their script is in there. It's under files. And you can take a look. Guys, any other information you want to share, including what the iterations, the changes, the modifications you've done to Aaron's document, feel free to load that in there as well. But the idea here is that in this particular scenario, I want you guys to, everybody's watching, I want you to get really, really comfortable with understanding that literally all of this is being done right over their phone, right? They're building rapport, they're paying attention to details, they're listening. To Steve's point, after somebody's invested this amount of time with you, the likelihood of them doing the deal with you, if there is a deal to be done, it's very, very good, right? You're basically ticking it up, ticking it up, ticking it up, ticking it up, because they don't want to do this with somebody else, I can assure you. If there's a deal to be made here, and the price, you guys can get close, they are much more likely to do, we do business with people that we like, know, and trust, right? You've taken the time to create that environment where, again, it's highly likely that if a deal is, if there is a deal to be had here where everybody can win, they're going to do it with you. You're then taking that, getting it under contract in real time, right there, sending the DocuSign immediately to them or quickly thereafter. One of the things that I know that you guys like to do is, if you can, to go over that document, that contract with them on the call, right? Because that helps kind of keep the gears greased and continue to build that rapport. So if you do send it in an email, guys, go ahead and schedule a call to walk them through it, right? Tell them, hey, I'll be happy to do that while your partner, spouse, whoever is on the phone with you. If you want to have somebody else there, that's fine, but I just want to make sure that I get all your questions answered in real time. Equally, then again, they gave you a couple strategies. If you can't, one of our other experts talked about sending an inspector out there to actually get an inspection done on the property. But these guys gave you a really easy thing to do. Send one of your buyers out there that you're giving first right of refusal to, allow them to take pictures and video. If they don't buy the property, now you have it so that you can market it out. And then again,
and a rehab budget.
And a rehab budget. And then you're turning around, and as you get a buyer for it, you guys are assigning the deal, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Pretty much 100%. I think in every assignment, every wholesale we've done has been an assignment. Yeah.
Right.
We prefer it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're effectively just assigning your interest in the contract to them, and then you guys are getting wires on the regular where your buyers, your cash buyers, are showing up to the table. They're bringing the funds to fund not only your original contract price, but they're also funding your assignment fee. So it's done. You guys are sitting there in Vancouver, Canada, while deals are happening for you in Atlanta, Georgia, and Austin, Texas. Correct?
Yep.
So, guys, we have time for, I have 3 minutes. So we have time for one question before, or one or two questions before I let these guys go. At what level of call volume of new clients, buyers, sellers do you add staff members? That's a question for you, Josh. When do you guys start adding people?
Geez, that's a good question. I don't know.
Or Steve, I don't care, whoever.
Well, we're kind of going through this process right now because it's sort of this debate of, how many leads to acquisition rep and going deeper with the leads and the follow-up. So we're admittedly trying to nail that formula down, but generally speaking, our goal is we want to be bringing in 50 leads roughly per day per rep. So I would say if you want to use that as sort of like a measure to assess whether or not you need additional support from an acquisition perspective, that might be one way to look at it. If you're only bringing in a handful of leads a week, you want to stay as close as you possibly can. Yeah. And I would,
like we have about 450 leads right now a week that we get, and we have three acquisitions. So there's a bit of a backlog, and even just like last week we had, like, we look at these numbers daily, and we had to let our cold call team have a few days off because we needed to catch up. So
yeah.
Okay.
But I would say, that's that's one of those functions you don't want to outsource too quickly. Like, you want to stay close to that front line for sure.
So 450 leads a week. What are you guys spending in marketing right now for deals?
Our average, I was just going to work through the numbers. Our average cost per deal, it does vary per channel, but we're roughly around $4,000 average cost per deal, and our average deal size is well, this past quarter has been quite high. We're like 15, 16K. So we're like a 3.5, 4 to 1 average across all of our marketing channels in terms of our ROI.
I love it. All right, let me see if I got any more questions, brother. I'm gonna let you guys out of here. Do you have a separate script for the initial cold call rep is using?
Yep.
Yes.
And give us kind of an overview. Basically, you're just trying to get somebody to raise their hand, right?
Yeah, basically, and I can share that with you guys too.
Put that in the group, will you?
Yeah, it's a condensed version of what we just went through without a lot of the stuff. Basically, we're just looking for an agreement that they are open to selling, time frame, a little bit more about the property, and then that's about it.
And they do push, the objective is to try to push a live transfer to our acquisition floor. So if they get a valid interested lead, they're trying to make the connection in real time while they have the seller on the phone.
So say that. So it will do a live transfer. If they've got somebody that's hot and bothered, they can literally live transfer right to an acquisitions person.
All through that Zen call.
That's all Zen call. So our whole cold call team. So we'll have at any given time 10 plus people on Zen call working in the system.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, hey, and you'll see like, oh, Ramel, yeah, hey, thanks for, and then Ramel will be like, yeah, I got Ken on the phone here. He's interested in getting an offer. Oh, thanks.
And off. Yeah.
When the cash buyer search reveals LLCs as the buyer, what follow-up do you do to identify the contact? We don't. Just mail the LLCs. Don't worry about it. By the way, behind every LLC is a person. If you will send direct mail to the LLC, the person will pick up the phone and call you. I promise you.
And isn't there also a way to
we do.
trace
So so what we do, Ken, so we do that for sure. And then every state has like a corporate registry lookup where you can actually identify who the agent, the registered agent is for that corporation. So that's what the VA does when I spoke to that earlier. So they'll look for who that agent is. Some instances there'll be a mailing address, and then they'll do what they can to basically find a phone number online. So, I'd say we're probably 20% accurate in tracking down a phone number as well.
I love it. I love it. And you can append the phone numbers in Smart to the LLCs as well, so you can always call.
Yes.
How many calls and texts are you guys sending out daily?
Okay, so our cold callers make on average 250 calls per day per cold caller. So that's logged calls. So
in 4-hour shift.
A 5-hour shift, right?
4 hour. I think it's
okay.
4.
So yeah, our cold call team is doing, roughly 12 to 1,500 calls a day, and then our acquisition team are logging, I'd say, between 30 and 50 calls per day.
And then SMS, we're sending.
Yeah,
we have two different ways of doing SMS, right?
Yeah, so we do kind of like the mass SMS through Roar, and albeit we've scaled it back just a bit because we've had a backlog of leads, but our average is we're roughly sending out 5,000 to 7,000 text messages a day through Roar. And then we also use Launch Control for more of our niche lists where we want to actually, leverage the drip, follow-up campaigns on more kind of specialty type lists. So, and that's smaller volume, 300-400 a day through Launch Control.
Okay, and then what would be your advice for somebody that is trying to kind of scale up on a limited budget? And then I'll give you my answer on that, and then that'll be the end of it.
Scale up on a limited budget.
I'm going to tell you that you're probably biting off more than you can chew.
Yeah,
I don't know if there is a way to do it.
The two things are counterintuitive, right? You cannot scale up in the context of what we're talking about, right? Building a staff, building a team. It's very challenging to do any of that on a limited budget. So the process that you have to go through is that you have to actually go through the hustle part of this, just like these guys did, just like we all have, which means that if you're on a limited budget, then you're going to have to market for buyers, you got to market for sellers, you're going to have to hustle, you have to grind here a little bit and create the income, right? When you create the income, you reinvest that income back in the business and create more income, right? You want to invest money that brings back friends. And so just like these guys have, they started off as their own little, team, And then as they started doing deals and started bringing money in, then they invested in it, and somebody on the acquisition side. And as they start growing, then it's a transaction coordinator. And then next thing you know, now it's a call team. And the money, the revenue and the income that you generate will ultimately fund your ability to scale up. It is extremely challenging to do that, if not impossible, without creating the income first. There's no way you can get from, skip from one man show to 100 people or 10 people or whatever. There's just no easy way to go through that. The income, the revenue, the grind is what initially will create the opportunity for you to then scale up. That's the best answer I can give you. You guys all agree with that?
Yeah. The only thing I was gonna, the one thing I've observed with people, and we kind of faced it too, not having a lot of money coming in, is you sort of, that's kind of like an excuse to not do the work, right? And there are so many creative ways to do deals without having thousands of dollars a month to spend on marketing, whether it be, for sale by owner, Craigslist, Zillow. Like, there's so many resources online to get in front of sellers. And then there's the whole JV piece, right? If you don't have the money to go get your own deals, provide value, reach out to other wholesalers and see if there's ways in which you can help sell theirs. And that has really, been an anchor for us. And 50% of the deals we've done over the years have come through some form of a JV. So I definitely encourage people to tap into that. That's a huge way to kind of scale up without having a ton of money.
Yeah, and if you're just starting out, guys, I mean, the bottom line here, and some of you are, right? Again, get into the certified wholesaling program. We talk extensively about how to do deals on a tight budget, right? It's all in there. If you're just trying to get your first check, I think Alex just put that in there. There is no easy. As we have made it as easy as we can for you, and I use that word I don't use that in a cavalier way. There's nothing easy about this. This is business, right? Business is tough. Is it simple? Is it straightforward? Is it process oriented? Is there, can you follow a proven script? 100%. But there's nothing easy about this. You're going to have to go and get your cash buyers lined up. You're going to take that information and go and create opportunity. You can create that opportunity on the sales side by marketing, or you can create that opportunity by sheer grinding, or you can create that opportunity, as Josh just talked about, joint ventures. There are plenty, a real down and dirty way to do it. If you go to Craigslist today and just go under the real estate section of Craigslist in your market and just go run a search for keywords like must sell, cash offer, cash only, you will see a plethora of wholesalers that don't know shit about how to sell a property. They're basically going out there and getting a property under contract, and then their way of selling it is posting it on Craigslist. Those people, if you have cash buyers that you've been marketing to and you've created, you can be the conduit immediately. There's your joint venture opportunity. They have inventory, you have buyers. It costs you nothing to do that. But the grind of this, and again, that tactic is discussed in the certified wholesaling. The grind of this, there's no way around it. To get your first check, you've got to be so hungry, so disciplined, follow the process exactly like we say to follow it, and you will get the first check. And then 1 leads to 2, 2 leads to 4, and then you get going. And that momentum is how you then start the whole process of ultimately believing in yourself, believing in this process, getting excited about it, and then getting reinvigorated about it, and then starting the process of scaling. These guys started how long? It's 5 years ago now?
5 years, yeah.
5 years ago, both had full-time jobs. Both were, as new to this as they could ever possibly be. And here they are sitting in front of you now, teaching you guys how to do this, right? So everybody started somewhere. Everybody had their first deal. Everybody was scared to death. But there's only one way to get through it, and that's through it.
And, just to add to that, one of the things that I thought of when you asked us the questions at the very beginning about, some things like if we had looked back 3 years from now, that sort of thing. The one thing that, very important, and for people, especially if you're new, going to the person that asked the scaling question, yeah, it's, scale because it's the right time for you to scale. Like, follow your own path. Like, you have your own journey in this. And, Josh and Steve, we are where we are today because we've made a shit ton of mistakes. We've done a lot of things that we probably, shouldn't have done, but we learn from them, right? And that's just all part of the process. Like, we did not talk the way that we talk now then. Like, we did not know what we know now then. Like, all these things happen over time. So try not to compare yourself. And I think this is big because, you know, the comparison is the thief of joy, and that is so true. You know, when you look at where you're currently sitting right now, really assess what it is that is inspiring you to take action and do what it is that you want to do. Because it's one thing to look at us, and you know, it's one thing to look at Kent and where he's at and be like, yeah, I want that. But you're going to go through the ringer. Like Josh and I right now are going through the ringer. Like we are working harder, faster than we've ever worked. And now we're working from home, and there's kids and wives and, you know, all this stuff. Hey, Josh, like breakdowns, mental, like, you know, there's all these things that are happening that we're stacking on top of it. So it doesn't just get easier because you scale, right? Like it's just your problems actually magnify.
And I will tell you that you guys, you know, in full transparency, guys, everybody here, that you know, Josh and Steve, what, 6-7 months ago, hired me as their personal coach,
Yeah.
right, to work with them. And in those conversations, right, we were basically there were big eyes, right, big appetite, want to go big, want to go do this, want to go do that. Having somebody in your corner to say, whoa, pull back. We got to get a couple mechanical things in place first before we can go to that next level. So there are levels to this all the way, right? And unfortunately, there's no way to go from here to here, regardless of your appetite, regardless of where your eyes are. You're gonna have to go. Can you speed the process up? Sure, but there's no way to skip the steps, and there's no way to have everything figured out. You can hire mentors, you can get in masterminds, you can basically help see around corners, but the corners still exist, and you're still gonna have to address them at some point in your business. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
And we still have shitty months.
Yeah.
Like we had our shittiest month pretty much from like the moment we started business in January. Like it's we're not immune to it. Like to think that like everything on is an Instagram photo is like a complete fallacy. Like we have shitty months, shitty days, shitty weeks. Like it's just it is the reality of it. But we've gotten a lot better at handling it though.
Well, and, you know, one thing that we talked about is you got to be prepared for the ups and downs, because not only did you have a shitty month, and you came right back the next month and had one of your best.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
So,
and then you throw COVID here.
yeah, that's business. Welcome to the real world, baby. That's the way it really works.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I appreciate you guys very much. Thanks for doing this. Let them hear you in the comments, guys. Let them know how much you appreciate it. Peace. Everybody out.
Thanks, Matt. See everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Later.